Shalom, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a live episode of Race Matters. Yay, we're back.
Yay!
We love doing this show. It
Yes,
is
we do. We
Thursday,
do.
May the 19th, 2022, and it is a great day to be alive and well. Thank you for joining us tonight again. Like I said, for a live episode of Race Matters, a safe place to have the hard conversation. And tonight we're going to talk about a few topics that have been in the headlines regarding race. And as I said on the blurb, if you read it, bring your tissues because it might get emotional today, but this is a safe place to have the hard conversation. And sometimes the hard conversation can be a passionate and emotional conversation.
Yes, it can.
Bring your tissues because it's okay to shed a few tears if you feel something for someone else or even for yourself. And we're going to get into the dialogue about trauma and grief along the way as we deal with all of these murders and unforeseen things that happen in our community that involve death as it relates to racism and traffic stops because of the color of your skin. And all of these things take a toll on our mental and emotional well-being. And so we're going to get into that tonight. So, but before we do, please share the feed, click the notification bell, like the page, and subscribe to the channel because we want you to know whenever we're on so you can watch the show and engage with us. We appreciate you engaging with us because it's not just about what we have to say. It's about all of us coming together to have the conversation so we can bridge this gap of mystery and take away the fear. Because when we understand others, it's hard for us to dislike others that we understand because now we've gotten to know you. So let's have this conversation together and engage in love while having the hard conversation. Yes. So I'm Sharon Thomas. I am the owner and CEO of Full Life Communications, which is my media company where the shows on this channel and page are produced. And my lovely co-hosts, Mariana and Rosie, host the show with me. And they have so graciously agreed to give of their time because they too have a message to share and believe in having this conversation in love to bring the communities together. And so that's why they have joined me here on this platform. And I'm so grateful for them. So thank you so much, Mariana. Thank you so much, Rosie, for agreeing to join me on this platform. I truly appreciate you so much for doing so. So we're going to start off the show right now. I'm going to let Rosie start off with the first topic that we're going to discuss today. Rosie, take it away.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And we really appreciate you, Sharon, for not only having these discussions and having a safe place to have it, but allowing us to host with you. So we truly feel honored to be a part of your team. So and the subject that I'm going to bring up first is the subject dealing with the school bus that was pulled over by the police officers. And as we all know, it was in Delaware State. And the young ladies, I mean, when you watch the video, if anybody has watched the news or even gone on YouTube, and we've all seen the video, and it was one of the teachers that took them, the coaches, she actually was interviewed, and she said, this was the first time these young ladies have ever had the majority of them ever had an experience with a police officer. And it bothered them. It really bothered them that their first experience was a police officer profiling them, basically. And even if you all watch the videos, the biggest problem is the covering up. The trying to deny what you're doing. A violation is a violation. It doesn't matter how you look at it. But when you're violated, you're violated. And when they had their spokesperson to come out and talk for them, they don't even give him the correct information to defend them, because he stood up there at the interview and said, they do these traffic stops all the time and no personal property was ever looked at or touched. That all they did was check and just ask them some questions, and no personal property was checked. And why they and one of the news stations that I was watching did a split screen. As he was saying that from his interview, they were showing the police officers going into the young ladies' suitcases, going into their little personal purses, even pulling out a brown box that one of the young ladies' aunts had given her as a gift. And he said, "What is this?" "I don't know. It's a gift from my aunt." "Well, what is it?" "It's a gift from my aunt. I don't know what's in it." and he said, I'm going to search it. So he takes her gift outside and opens it up, you know, and you would think in the high profile of racism that's going on, that some of these officers would really think twice before they do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And he went on that bus. He said, oh, by the way, Sharon, because you had asked me before, what was the infraction? He went around another car. He was driving, the bus driver was in the right lane. And according to the bus driver, he said, you were in the left lane. He said, no, I moved to the left lane to go around a car that was slow in front of me. And then I got back in front of them. I wasn't driving in the left lane. I just moved around the other car.
Yeah. And you ladies were saying earlier that there was another infraction, right?
Yeah, that was the only infraction. That was because at first we never knew what the infraction was, because he never got a ticket. He never was cited. He never even got a warning about what he did. And they said, oh, you were driving in the left lane. He said, yeah, because I was going around another vehicle. But see, once the officer called the driver off the bus, then he went up in there and saw the young ladies. And then he went to his car and said, there's a whole lot of girls in that bus.
Yeah.
You know, in my opinion, I'm sorry, I think in his mind he wanted to say something else. And that's just how I feel, because at that point, you made a very conscious decision to call for backup and a sniffing dog. For somebody who moved into a left lane to go around another vehicle and come back in the right lane.
Yeah,
this could have been
sorry, Rosie.
Go ahead.
No, I was just pointing out to your earlier comment today about, driving, right, while being
driving while black.
So that's what I said. I think that you were mentioning
DWB, driving while black. And one of the young ladies even was brave enough just to ask the question. And the question was, as she asked them, the officer, she said, how did the bus driver having an infraction, a driving infraction, turn into you all wanting to search us? Good question. And then they were even asked, they later on, it was when they interviewed the one of the coaches, the coach, and she said they didn't take it any further because they knew how serious it could get. The young ladies, a couple of them were videotaping, but they said, and how were the young ladies acting? She said, we were very restrained because we all knew on that bus where this could go rapidly. And that's where the travesty is. Not having the ability to be proactive in defending yourself when you see something wrong going on, because you know that in the end, you or one of your classmates could lose their life.
That is scary.
And that's where it is. I'm glad you said that, Mariana. That's where it is. Why does life have to be scary? Why do we have to live in fear all the time with all of these things going on? You hear more and more Black people saying, I'm just afraid to go out of the house because we're getting killed just for being there. And yet you have young white people killing us, and they're being protected, taken into custody, calmly taken to prison, and you're handled with kid gloves.
And there was pictures of the Buffalo shooter, right, being arrested, and there was like almost like a petting, a soothing on his, like back.
Right. So that's basically the part of the show that I was talking about. Now, I was talking to Sharon and Mariana earlier. The dean, I think it's the dean of the school, the gentleman who they were interviewing, did say that they opened up cases. They're filing a violation, a federal complaint is being filed, and then also with the DOJ, and then they're also went to the Office of the Civil Rights to file a complaint, because a lot of these young ladies, they're very upset. They
understandably so.
The bottom line is when you ask them, why do you think you were stopped? Because we're Black. Our coach is Black. The one young lady, she said, our coach is Black, the bus driver's Black, and mostly all the people on our bus was Black. because there's no other reason for them to search our personal items. And then you bring a sniffing dog and you find nothing.
Yeah, and they were like, you know, you were saying earlier, they couldn't really say anything in the moment. And in the video, like the guy was saying, oh, is it clear? You know, this is what's going to happen. And like everyone was like, yes, sir. You know, like very
Respectable.
Exactly. Yeah.
They showed the utmost respect for and constraint for the authority of the police officer. But that should not have to be like that. We shouldn't. That could have been a teachable moment for other officers for them to say, oh, okay, sorry, young ladies, your bus driver just did a knucklehead thing, but we're going to let him go in a second. We're just going to let him know. And you all have a wonderful day. That could have been a teachable moment. Those young ladies could have had a great experience with police officers and said, yeah, we know they pull over people and they do bad things, but we got pulled over and they were great. But no, now they have to live with the fact that they've been profiled after doing what kids do in school buses, going places, having competitions and doing things like that, living a young person's lifestyle. And then all of a sudden now you're thrown headlong into a situation that obviously was a racial profiling.
Right. And to start off by saying there was an infraction, you committed an infraction and not even know what the infraction was. And something so relatively minor. It's like, because he moved from one lane to the other. Okay. People do that every day. Did he not have the turn signal on? Like, what was the infraction?
No. You drove in the left lane. He said, yeah, I was going around the car that was in front of me.
Right. Because that's the passing lane.
Yeah. He said, I moved to the left lane.
Did he not have a signal on?
Right. I moved to the left lane. I passed the car. I moved back to the right lane. Seriously?
Right. Abby says that for absolutely nothing. All that for absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing, Ab.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. And now the stigma to these young ladies is going to be a lifetime because they're going to be telling their grandchildren. Yeah, right, racism happens because we got pulled over and the cops brought sniffing dogs, opened all of our luggage. So this is going to be something that is going to be talked on for generations because you're an officer, you're to protect and to serve, you protect. Yet you cause these young ladies to have an experience that they'll never forget.
Right. And I'm sure, well, I can't say I'm sure, but, some of them, not all of them, will probably have to deal with some trauma symptoms.
Right.
They had the dogs come in and sniff around, like they had drugs on them.
Yeah.
Right. And also, too, with these dogs can be vicious. You never know. Oh, my God, is the dog going to attack me? That type of thing.
And the thing is,
a teachable moment where they had a positive experience,
yes,
with police officers, so they could add to the conversation, say more in a positive way. Because we do know that there are police officers out there who do the right thing.
Exactly. And you know what, Sharon? I think this is where accountability happens. Because why didn't another officer say, "Dude, come on"?
Exactly.
Yeah, this is a bus full of young girls that just came off of a competition. Yeah, right. Dude, we need to tamper this down.
Right. Were there multiple officers that came in when the
there was a few others.
It was when they first stopped the bus, it was like two cops that went up on the bus, but then they called and then it was like around about two more cop cars and a sniffing, a cop with the sniffing dog.
In my opinion, it's the first ones who were on the scene because they're
escalated
the ones who saw the infraction.
Yeah.
Right. And so one of them could have said, well, this isn't much. Let's let's let them go or whatever. And the same thing, in the George Floyd situation, right? Like 4 officers were there, counting the one that was actually murdered him. Why didn't any of you say anything? Like this is disturbing.
Yeah,
right. Why aren't you disturbed by what you're seeing?
Exactly.
And and so the accusations, and they said it very clearly, concern for drug smuggling and whatnot. And they even went on about the marijuana being illegal in Georgia.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So this, yeah.
And they said crack. They mentioned everything. They said, yeah, we want to make sure you know that it's still illegal in Georgia. And they're like, what are you talking about, officer? And we got to check because it could be. We've seen people taking crack and cocaine and weed and this and that. You know what? I praise God that I wasn't one of the students on that bus, because I probably would have been one of them that started the trouble. I would have been like, no, and don't forget.
Right.
I would have been like, and don't forget, not only crack, cocaine, and reefer, but blackness too. Okay, so let's just put it where it is, officer. This is a bus full of you know what, and that's why we're having this issue. Because none of us girls do drugs. We are athletes. We take care of ourselves, and you have a problem with the blackness on this bus.
Exactly. And wasn't there a way to confirm that there were students coming from an event, like a sporting
They could have asked the coach.
Like the fact that they probably had on sporting uniforms.
Exactly.
That. And then he was like, and I hope you ain't going to embarrass your chaperones by having drugs on you. You know what, dude? You know what you need to do? You need some training. You need some sensitivity training, or something needs to happen. I think a lot of these cops that feel the way they do need to have a swap, and they need to end up in Camden and then send the Camden cops to those areas to train those other cops how to treat people of color. And I'm talking about all people, Asian people, black people, Mexican people, because this stuff has got to come to an end. We don't think it ever will, but
honestly, people that do things that intentionally, that's clear racial profiling. Maybe the video you sent, right, was also highlighting that a lot of these people need to be replaced. If we want, if we want to address these issues, I'm reading even about like in the times and ways in which mental health has been also discriminatory, right? And the approach I would take to that is, I actually don't want those people to continue to be right in our profession and add to that name. So that's my concern when it comes to, police brutality, is this emphasis on like, oh, there's only a few of them, a few bad apples, instead of like saying like, no, we're gonna address this issue because we do not want, us who care about serving our communities and keeping safety to be, seen as such. Right. So we're going to address this issue instead of like becoming defensive and, all of this other stuff. I wouldn't want any therapists to be racist. If they are, they should be held accountable.
They should. You're right.
Agreed.
And the same should happen. Like, that's what I want from more police officers who, want to be seen as good people and not racist. Call the evil that happens within your organization, because I don't
exactly
you'll agree with everyone else in your profession, and it doesn't speak to you personally, but you must identify with this institution way too much and with its actions overall to get that defensive when you're not directly attacked.
And it would be so easy if the white officers that also were on the scene took a stand, because that's what needs to happen. Black people don't need to make a stand. We've been making it forever.
Exactly.
But it's those who do the infractions. It's the people, their peer, that need to step in and say, hey, look, listen, dude, listen, with all that's going on, no, we ain't doing this today. Not today.
Right.
Sir, please do not drive in the left lane again. Just be careful and cautious of what you're doing. If you're going around somebody, we're just we're not going to say too much about that, but please don't get pulled over for that again. You can go on your way. You have a great day. Young ladies, you all have a great day. I hope y'all had fun, whatever y'all did, and get off the bus and say, dude, listen, with all the heats that we're taking right now with racial profiling, especially police officers, we need to tone it down. And I'm starting with us.
And can you imagine if that same exact scenario happened? Same exact scenario, but it was a white bus driver and a bus full of white female sports athletes, right?
And a black officer.
Or going to their event. What would have happened then?
Well, it depends. If well, no, it don't. But think about. Well, it does depend. If it was a black officer and he did what he did, what this officer did to the black students, there would be all kind of repercussions. He would be probably suspended or set down or put on office duty until they investigated to see why he did it and what was his reasoning.
Right.
But if it was a white officer, he would have went. Matter of fact, if he would have
stopped,
he probably would have been stopped. And if he was stopped, he would have said, "Oh, sir, you know, you got to be careful when you go around cars, you know. So stay out of the left lane. Have a great day."
Right.
You know, but they said as soon as he opened the door and saw the black guy and can I see you for a minute, and then walked up on the bus and then he walked to his car. Whole bunch of girls on that bus.
Like, what do you think all these girls are on the bus doing? I mean, really?
You didn't see no dance poles. You didn't see no flashing lights. You ain't see no liquor.
What do you think? They just went and robbed someplace, you know, in a bus, and they got a driver and they, you know, held them at gunpoint.
Yeah. And told him to go around that car.
When you think about it, they're young teenagers.
Exactly.
And all of them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Rosie, were you also saying, I didn't see in that video, but I don't know if you've read about this from like other sources too, but weren't they also denying that they
yeah, they what happened is they told their superior who had to do the interview. They told them, "Oh, we didn't do anything. We didn't go through their property. All we did was, you know, stopped him for an infraction, and then we just, you know, did a quick search of the bus. You know, I guess they told him a quick whatever they told him. They didn't tell him the truth because what the news station did is they showed him a black captain or whatever he was, black man, defending them, the white officers, saying." Oh, had whoever wrote the paper, gave him the paper to read. Oh, we do stops on there all the time. That's not the first vehicle that was stopped that day. We do drug stops all the time. And they stopped the bus, but they didn't search it. They didn't search any of their personal items or anything like that. So nothing of their personal items. And he didn't even look up. He was reading the whole time. Mm-hmm. And none of their personal items were checked. And they did a split screen with the officer opening up the young ladies, you know, the little like the makeup bag thing, zipping it open, going through that, pulling out their prescriptions, putting it back in there, pulling other stuff out, opening their suitcases, checking that, pulled a brown box out of one of the young girls. Yeah, pulled a brown box out of one of the young girls' suitcases and went on the bus. Whose is this? Oh, that's mine. What's in it? I don't know. It's a gift from my aunt. What did she give you? I mean,
you would think that the captain, if that's his title, who was reading off of this paper in this day and time with everything that has happened, that you would want to have every I dotted and every T crossed before you got up there on a public stage and professed that your officers did not do X, Y, and Z.
And basically embarrass yourself.
You did not do exactly. So now his job is on the line.
Because the bottom line is I would have got up there and I would have said, okay, listen, I reviewed the video. And what I was about to read to you on this paper is not true.
Yeah.
So until I do an internal investigation, I'm going to hold off on making too many comments. Now, we do pull over a lot of vehicles to check for drugs, but I have to look into this one because I watched the video and I'm concerned as a black man and a black father. If he is, I would have been like, even if he was
everything, we just don't know everything that has happened. So until we do, we'll let you know when we know.
Yes, we're going to have to investigate this more, and we are going to be open in this investigation and let you know where this goes. But I'm a little bit concerned about what this paper says and what I saw on that video.
Right.
So let me get back to you on that.
Yeah, I thought Abby made a good comment.
You want to read that, Mariana?
Sure. She's saying they don't care. They have gotten away with this for so long and there are no repercussions. Exactly.
Right. No repercussions. That's why people do stuff, because it's like, oh, well, if I can get away with it, and if I have a propensity, that's how I am. It's like, well, I'm going to keep doing it because, hey, it must be okay.
Yeah. And Abby, you can't make this stuff up because
You
it's
have to get
recorded.
into trouble.
The
And then
video
before
is
we
right
stop
there.
doing something.
So yeah, you can't make this stuff up because we're watching it live.
Right.
You know,
And that's another thing. We live in the age of video. Like,
Mhm.
things are found out now. So this is how bold and brazen they are and how much they don't care.
Yeah.
Because even though there's video, I'm still going to lie. And let's just see what happens.
They need
because
to-
you know why? I have that privilege. The privilege of the badge and the privilege of my skin color.
And at that point,
and that has worked heretofore.
yes.
But today is a new day.
Yep. And that's when they need to hold up a sign that says open mouth and insert foot. Because that's what you did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really ridiculous.
But I don't want to take all the time because this is a heavy subject, but I don't want to take all the time because we got a couple other subjects to talk about. So, but that's one of the subjects we're talking about. And now we're going to throw it over to Miss Mariana, who's going to talk about her subject, which is the Buffalo shooting, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if y'all want to still make comments on what I've talked about, what we've talked about as far as racially profiling not only blacks, but kids, students, kids, making their
profiling anyone.
Yeah. And making their first experience be the kind that is going to, go on in their lives for the rest of their lives. So, but go ahead, Mariana.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Rosie. Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. Yeah.
I know, right? You got to take a deep breath.
It's like
maddening, yeah. And it doesn't get easier, right, with the next topic.
Can you imagine when they went home and told their parents? I mean, that's
their parents would live it, I'm sure.
They lived it, and it's got to be gut wrenching. The parents probably, some of them were probably so livid, they probably want to go around and look for the cops, But of course, they're not going to do nothing crazy. But
yeah, to know your child who, as an athlete, is putting a lot of work to bettering themselves and the community, and then to see them experience that, yeah. And then Buffalo happened. I remember just getting a notification because I have notification for news sometimes on my screen, and I just read that and I was like, not another one, not another shooting. Has gone through so many recently. And I honestly, at first, I didn't even open up to read because it's just like really heavy sometimes to read about these,
it is
acts of violence, right? And we just have been through like so much already. And then another news, maybe a few hours later, I saw another title, and this one said something about this being, like a racial hatred incident. And that's when I was like, oh, I think that's when I emailed you ladies too. That's when I was like, okay, well, let me see more like what's going on here. So yeah, young man, 18-year-old white guy. I'm not gonna name him because I think we need to spend a lot more time
on the victims,
and their families. But that's what happens now. An entire community once again, right, is grieving. After, we talked recently about racial trauma, right? So along with, we talked about the trauma aspect, but, trauma and grief also go hand in hand, right? And what made, racial experiences and discrimination so traumatic for many, generations for people of color is, violence, but also a lot of losses, right? So start with losing your family when, people were stolen and sold into slavery. During slavery, there was a lot of losses by, removing family members from each other, sending them to other plantations and so on. And the losses just keep happening over and over again. And this person apparently was buying into this whole, replacement theory. Conspiracy. Critical race issue was a big problem, but apparently not so much replacement theory, right? And we clearly see the distinction of one causes violence, the other one is trying to highlight the violence that a group of people is experiencing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet, one is getting, demonized,
Right.
and then the other one, is allowed to like fly without.
Mm-hmm.
Right, where it should be the other way around.
Right.
It's crazy how, I mean, sometimes I wonder, like, where are the brains of our society? And replacement theory, white people being replaced by people of color. And so it's like, okay, being replaced how is my question. So being replaced how? In positions of leadership in politics, in major corporations, in where? How exactly are you being replaced?
Mm-hmm.
Because then when we get into that dialogue, then we can kind of, walk it back, because then the bottom line is you fear losing control,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not having the privileges that are afforded to you now by being the so-called superior race. When we know that there is no superior race, there is the human race, and that's it. But let's just go on, what white supremacy espouses. And so with all that comes along with that, if I lose that, then where will I be? And then maybe I'll be treated the way the marginalized people are treated.
Which they're showing that they're afraid of that.
They're
right?
afraid of that.
What exactly, and then what are you communicating by not wanting to be replaced, right? That those people who did not have access to those positions of power, right? It must not have been all that nice for them, right? And I'm using emphasis
exactly
on nice, right? Because there's other words I would want to use here.
And see, it all ties in, because you have these Tucker Carlson people and stuff that propagate this critical. They talk negatively about critical race theory, and then they really push forward this replacement theory. And then when something like this happens, then he's on his show. Well, what is replacement theory? Nobody knows what that is. Oh, you knew what it was for months. Forever you've been talking about it and talking about how you all are being replaced. And now that there's a mass shooting, you want to get 10 carats stupid and act like you don't know what's going on. Yet you push forward about you. I mean, there's, like you said, there's where the rubber meets the road. You have so much negativity about critical race theory, which is just people saying, listen, let's look at how we're being treated, and really, look at how the injustices are. And then you have these other people
and
saying
how it affects everyone, not
right,
just Black people.
Right.
Critical race theory is not just about Black people.
It's
and
about
how Black people have been treated. It's about all of us and how it has affected all of us. And
Right.
having that conversation so we can be educated and make an informed decision as we move forward. That's how
Right.
we should talk about everything.
Yes.
Why is it different about race?
Right.
Yeah, so I played. It's hard for me. Like, just the way it was hard to ever listen to Trump. It's so hard to sit through talk.
Very difficult.
Oh, then I'm like, okay,
I don't even
let
listen
me
to him.
hear. Well, yeah, I never do either. But
It's comedy hour when I listen to him.
He's just asking a bunch of rhetorical questions, that. Anyways,
sometimes I think he just does it to incite things.
That's
It's
it,
like,
yeah.
I don't even know if he even really believes these things. He probably does.
I don't.
He's just trying to incite stuff.
Yeah, I don't. I think he knows how to stoke the fires. That's all. But I
He
don't
absolutely
believe.
does.
I
He
like
absolutely
you. I don't believe he believes anything. He just says stuff.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to those, white supremacy conferences and meetings.
Right. Yes, some of that he's definitely into, but he's using his position, like you said, to incite behaviors, right? That'll move that agenda.
Yeah, and this is
so
like
there's an agenda.
So he, like, the word that I saw that he was. Yeah, that really.
This is a safe place, Mariana. It's a safe place, honey. Say it.
So he was criticizing diversity and saying, like, well, when did diversity work? If you're in a marriage and two people, have very different values and opinions, does that work? And going on and on. So he was pretty much saying that diversity is an issue in society. And then what? America is a very diverse country. So what are you proposing? That the people who are not like you, right? Well, why don't you leave, right? The way they said
Exactly.
that's
Yes.
They will say that to
Exactly.
others.
Right.
Um,
Don't tell us to leave. You leave. If you don't like
Right.
what's happening
And you
here,
can't tell
go
Black
home.
people, you can't tell
Russia-
African Americans to leave. We were born here. This is our country, right?
Exactly.
This is where we are
Well,
from. We don't know Africa like that.
Right.
Africans do, but we
And
were
you know-
born here. This is our country.
And it's even
That's
worse.
the thing. You know,
Meanwhile,
they're
like,
not even thinking about what they're saying.
Yeah, and he'll fit very well in Russia. They love him there.
Mhm.
So I would buy the ticket for
Hey,
him.
that's
He
his
wants
big.
my ticket.
Yeah, listen, Putin is his. I think is his big poppy. You know, because he listens to everything he says. But it even baffles the mind when they even talk to the indigenous people, and I've seen them tell them, "You go home to your country," and they look at them like, "This is my
Right.
country.
Right.
And it's not yours. Right?
You don't
Exactly.
belong here." They tell them, "You're the ones that don't belong here.
And the
This
same
is
with
our land."
the murder from Texas a few years ago, where one of the shooters too was, really mad with the amount of Latin populations in Texas. And what his thing was? Something along the lines of like, oh, there's a Mexican infestation in Texas. And it's like, but Texas used to belong to Mexico.
And-
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
probably
understand that when they
know
were
that.
saying, as they were saying, Putin's taking back his land. Well, the Mexicans want their back too. How about that?
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay. Putin's
the-
taking
the
back, as you
indigenous
say, his
people want their
parts
land
that
back.
belong to Russia. Well, guess what? Mexico wants their part that we stole.
Mhm.
So how about that?
Some
And we
people
all have to leave if the indigenous people say we want our land back and get
There you go.
exactly. No, that's not as convenient.
Right.
Of
Well, Abby's
Yeah.
made a couple of remarks. She says the logic is based on fear, and they are afraid of losing their privilege.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow. Let me see. Abby
Matisse
said
joined
that
us.
earlier. Wow, you can't make this stuff up. Want to make sure that I get everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, please put your name in the feed or just say hello, because I can't shout you out, or we can't say anything if we don't if you don't put anything in the feed, because we don't know what you're watching. And if you're watching on a page other than Full Life Communications, on Mariana's page or Rosie's page, they'll have to look on their devices, because I can only see the people who are actually watching on Full Life Communications. So thank you for watching, and thank you for putting your questions up there, and we will get to them as we have the conversation.
Thank you, Abby, for your involvement there today. Yeah, but I wanted to ask you ladies a bit more too about your experience, and I know it's heavy, but hearing about the Buffalo shooting, and how did you find out it was?
Yeah, well, I like you all. I saw it. I get the news alerts too, and I had to correct a couple people because they were like, "Oh, the guy shot different types of people. He didn't just shoot." I said, "Look at it again. He shot all Black people. Look at it again. The ones I told him, the ones that are dead. I said the ones that he killed are all Black, and he had, racist remarks on his weapon."
Yeah.
Yeah, he had the N-word written out.
I didn't. I was going to say the N-word
of his weapon, and then what that number 14 that stood for what the 14 words of that mantra. We won't even talk about the group, but there's a mantra, that they have, and so it was quite clear what he came there to do, and he cased the place out for some days prior to across the street in front of a barbershop, pretending to use the Wi-Fi and just kind of searching out the area. So he had intent. This was premeditated.
Oh yes. There's a manifesto online of like a very long one where he talked about his plan, and he referenced this conspiracy of replacement theory.
And Tucker Carlson too, right?
Yes, he mentioned. That's why I mentioned it, because he mentioned that he was following Tucker Carlson and all of that, the replacement theory that he was telling them, and even a Black gentleman said he talked to the young guy for a long time. He said, "I would have never thought that's why he was here." He said he seemed like a nice young man. We were having a great conversation, and then he said we talked for a while, and the last bit of their talk got into critical race theory. And that's when their conversation ended. But he said, but the way our conversation went, I would have never thought that he would have been the one to come back and do something like this. So
yeah, but
the previous year he had some struggles at school by saying certain things, and they said that he had to get a mental health evaluation.
Right.
And he got a mental health evaluation. And they, no alarms went off. And so since no alarms went off, the school and the police didn't say anything to whatever entity that you have to put someone's name on where they couldn't get a gun. So that didn't happen. And he was able to purchase the gun that killed the people.
And he had more guns in the car. And this one too, I never remember the names because I'm not interested in guns. And it was an assault rifle that he was able to shot 50 times. That says a lot. But you're right. So in that paper, he threatened mass murder.
Yeah. Okay. And he actually was thinking about a church, a school, and then he chose the supermarket in the end.
Exactly. And the fact that he was arrested for that and then had to have an evaluation and he was still able to buy a gun, like that's the part that
So
Abby said that his parents
are saying it's because of COVID.
Right.
Parents, I read that. Relatives. Let's park here for a second. Okay, so first of all, that word right there, because of how YouTube works, we're not going to really say that word because because of this misinformation and disinformation, there's certain words where they'll flag your channel. But we've put it out there, we know. So we're just going to call it the disease right now. So this disease over the past couple of years has caused many things, tragic things, and people have become depressed, have become anxious. Mariana and I, we are in private practice as mental health clinicians, so we see it, right? It's real, not denying any of it. We haven't been here before in America with this type of disease, and it's killed 1 million people. So it has come out, 1 million Americans. So it's come out in the news as of last week. It has done damage. And I'm not even saying that this young man has not even been suffering from something because of of this disease, because many of us are, myself included. Right, locked up in a house for 2 years almost, barely can do what you want to do. That's depressing, right? And so it was said that spending a lot of time in the house and in his room and online, and that's where he got radicalized, because he spent so much time in these dark places online, right? And so which I can believe, but now so because of this disease and we're locked in. Well, I'm not going to those chat rooms. I know many people who aren't, going to kill people because now I'm locked in the house and I'm, online looking at certain things. Right? But now if he has become radicalized because of the types of rooms he's in, but that was his choice to go to those rooms, right? And then believe what it is that they're saying. But now he had already had some mental health struggles. Right, because he's saying things at the school like what Mariana said. He said he was going to, and had the mental health evaluation. So we already know there's something going on there, right? Something's not right. So now, disease or not, he would have probably found these rooms, these underground rooms that purport all of this violence and white supremacy and nationalism and all of that kind of stuff, and carried out this plan. I don't think because this disease of this past couple of years was the cause of this. He may have had more time on his hands to find these spaces, but he would have found them anyway.
Yeah, this kind of character development, right, for someone to not have empathy for others happens in childhood, right? Serious neglect. And abuse and other sorts of things might impede the part of the brain that's responsible for empathy at a young age, and it develops over time progressively. It does not happen in 2 years from the age of 16 to 18. It's simply that.
Right, that's a much earlier stage of development when that happens.
And it's just an excuse to try to get sympathy for a murderer.
Mm-hmm.
And
to also
what they're saying too is like, this is not like him. We don't understand. We never knew that he could have done this. I mean, some of that is true. They probably never thought that he would do. What parent, for the most part, is going to think that their child is going to go take an assault rifle and kill a group of people? What parent is going to think that?
Mm-hmm.
But it's obviously not. It is within the realm of possibility for anyone's child to do it. Anyone. So let's stop, let's take the blinders off of thinking that we really know people so well. I don't care if you live with people like these families do, like every other family does, you still really don't know what's in a person's heart, even when you live with them.
And that's a problem that I have too, because if this is your child and they're living with you and you're missing all of that, then something's missing in your communication with your child, because something should have triggered you to say, I think we need to have some counseling for our child. Because I'm sorry, my nieces and I don't have any kids. I just have nieces and nephews, but I can tell when something's off. I don't even live with them. And I could say, yo, is he all right? Is she okay? Because something feels off.
And even if they didn't know, Rosie, when the school had said he threatened to do this, threatened to do that, and had him get a mental health evaluation, that should have sent off red flags then.
Yeah. So I'm hard pressed to believe that they didn't think anything. They just, I don't know why they ignored it, but this is the end result. Don't try to defend it. Just say we missed it, and this is what happened.
Right. That's the thing. Exactly. Let's just say, you know what? This is not, I would have never thought this would happen. Obviously it did, but something we must have missed. But I'm not in denial.
But
I'm not making excuses. This was heinous. This was thought out, because they see the news, right? And we're sorry. You know what I mean? And we're praying for the families too, because this is something that we never thought would happen.
Honestly, I see,
work with you with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But honestly, more so than also just an excuse, I also think it's a blame shifting of like, it's the Democrats who were pro masks, for isolation, right? So not only are they not taking responsibility for his actions, they're saying it's the people who imposed all these isolation mandates or whatnot. It's their fault because our child did this.
Abby has a very good point, Sharon, and this is true. And she said they are already setting the stage by referring to him as a child. If he were Black, he would be described as a Black adult.
Oh wow.
Male, Black male adult.
Exactly.
Murdered, this and that, and this and that. 18, and he could be 16 and 15. He could be 16 and 17, and they'd still say a Black male adult.
There is no line. There is no wondering. 18, you are charged as an adult. There's no wondering here. His birth certificate is going to show who he is. I don't care what words you use.
Sharon,
he's charged as an adult.
Look what Latisse put on there. She said they had an idea because he killed a cat and his mother made him bury it in the backyard, and he resented her for that. Jeffrey Dahmer's, and now she's mentioning Jeffrey Dahmer's mom called him abusing animals and never dealt with it. The parents both dropped the ball. Both stories are a kid who cried for help.
And, Mariana and I both know that in childhood, when children kill animals, that is a telltale sign that there are major issues that need to be dealt with.
Wow.
So that's both of them. Thank you so much for that comment, Abby, and that comment, Leticia. Those are huge. Those signs are huge. And so now, if mental health professionals did not get involved then, like Leticia was saying, a mom told him, overlooked it and told him to bury it in the backyard. So first of all, if you really know, the family should have been afraid. that
Yeah.
lived with him.
Exactly.
Not just people outside of the house.
Yeah.
You're now potentially prey, right? When you understand how this works. But okay, so now you're raising someone with this propensity, and you know it. So then
Wow.
that speaks volumes about you. And so there's blood on mom's hands now. I don't know if dad knew it. I'm just basing on what Leticia said she read. But there's blood on mom's hands. So we have to be mindful of what our children are doing, what they are saying, who they are hanging out with. It matters. Parents need to be more observant. Stop allowing the internet to raise your children.
Yeah. And her cover up started with the cat.
And who knows what else?
And my question too is like, okay, well, if he was isolated in his room and didn't do much, how did he have money to buy all of that?
Yeah, well, that's another big question, Mariana.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That might be another whole story. Who's funding these killers?
And now there's, back to the grief, right? The community who will be traumatized for a long time.
Yeah.
Right.
I like the experience of, I can't imagine like hearing that. So I've seen stories of family members being together in that storm, like being separated for a brief time, or others who found out and they came quickly, and it took like about half an hour to be reunified. And
I think I was
or crying. Go ahead, Rosie.
No, I was going to mention that we were talking about it earlier, how it affected me, and I found myself crying, but not crying because another mass black shooting, but I was watching the community over there, the white people, the black, the Indian, the Asian, they were all talking about the pain that they were going through because the people that were killed were people they have known. And, I ended up crying with them, the community, because you take a white supremacist, he goes in that area, he does a killing, and the whole community is affected. Everybody that knew all of them, to them, it wasn't a race issue. It was, you killed my friend.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And
a lot of them were seniors.
Yes.
They've been living in that community for ages, and everybody knew them.
Everybody knew them.
Yeah, it's devastating.
Yeah.
And so the whole community is grieving, and the nation is grieving. And I'm generalizing, but many of the nation is grieving with them. And it's just another tragedy. And we know that there's going to be another one. When is enough going to be enough in America? And you know what it is, and it's sad to say, and I hope it never happens. But just like everything else, when the drug addiction epidemic was black, it was okay.
Well, it wasn't not only okay.
And they started dying and ODing. Now we got to get them treatment.
It's an illness.
We're not going to punish them and put them in jail like we did with the black people. We're going to get them treatment and get them help because they're white. So and I don't want this to happen, but I'm just making a statement here. If these mass murders in the communities were killing white people in their white churches and their white supermarkets, something would happen.
Something.
You might even have to be, I don't know, because like
you might even have gun reform.
You would.
It didn't stop after Sandy Hook with little children. So I guess they have to kill white men who are in power.
But keep killing white people like they keep killing black people. It has to be continuous for it to happen. And I'm not saying I want that. Don't miss anything that I'm saying.
But I think what you're saying is if the magnitude of white people being killed was at the level it is of black people, reform would happen real quick, because then they would feel the pain and the stain of the killings, but they don't feel it. They can't.
Home.
Right.
And it's like we can only care about people who we know and people who we love. That what? Right. So you can't care about me because I don't look like you and because you don't specifically know me. What about just brotherly love? I don't have to know you to care about you. I don't have to know you to not want you to be harmed. like you said, Rosie, it wasn't about just about the shooter killing Black people.
Mm-hmm.
It was a community of people that's grieving. They could have been white, they could have been Asian. It doesn't matter. We still would grieve with you.
Yes, we would.
Horrible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Leticia had another comment. Would one of you ladies like to read that?
She said, that's just the cat that we know of. When they looked at his diary, he made mention of his desire after these killings. It's going up on me.
To go kill animals.
Yeah, to go kill animals.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and Abby added a comment too.
Okay, let me read it, highlight this one and then highlight the other one. You want to read that one?
Sure. She just made a comment to me. She said, Rosie, I was teary-eyed because here we go with they just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. The excuses are unacceptable. And Abby said,
so wait, before you did, who was at the wrong place at the wrong time? The Black people.
That's what she's saying. She said they here they go with the excuses saying that these people that died were at the wrong place at the wrong time. Somebody was going to die if it wasn't them.
But wait, who's saying that the people in the market?
Letice, do you know who said that, Letice?
Because the thing is, they were shopping. They do what they do all the time, but they do what every American, every person does. We go shopping. So
yeah, how is the wrong
place at the wrong time? Somebody would have been there. That's what the market is for.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even when you look at it, then if you're going to look at it like that, then being born at the wrong place at the wrong time. You know, I mean, come on.
So some white people are saying that. Okay, thank you, Leticia.
Is that, Leticia, people you have heard?
Yeah, are these people that you know, Leticia, personally, or what you have read in the headlines?
Right, yeah.
And while she's answering that, can you read Abby's?
Mariana, you can hit that.
Yeah, I agree with her on this one too. When crack, you would lock them up. Heroin, fentanyl, we need substance abuse treatment. Yes, that happened
exactly. Right. And so now Leticia has answered our question. She said, white America said it in a news conference. Oh boy. Okay. So that statement doesn't even make sense. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time. They're doing what to do like we all do every day, going to the supermarket to shop for our groceries.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Doesn't even make sense.
And their neighborhood. Because now
exactly.
they were talking about, people had to come from other parts to bring them groceries because that was their only, neighborhood grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So
I think even Chuck Schumer had made a comment. I think it was him. When he was talking about the killing, he said that he remembered when I don't know if he was a congressman in that state, but he was in that state, and he said he remembers that store being miles away in a different direction, and he pushed to have them open that store in that location so that they would have a community grocery store over there. Right. And I remember him when he was talking about it in front of Congress, he said, I pushed for them to have, because the people in that community had to go a farther distance to try and go to that supermarket. So I pushed to have them open that one in that community for them.
Right.
And now like what happens? Because like, do they need to open another one? I can't imagine the reminders of trauma if they have to go back shopping there again.
Exactly. And Mariana's, no, go ahead, continue, Mariana.
I was saying, especially the people that were present in the store, but everyone, it doesn't matter.
Even the employees, how fearful they're going to be, wondering who's going to come in their store while they're working.
Exactly. And so that's a good segue into the next part of our topics tonight. We're talking about grief, trauma, and resiliency. The trauma that community has experienced, the owner might close up the store just because of now being so fearful, which is what trauma, one of the things that trauma does, that, well, might this happen again? Because now your thoughts are, you're being a little bit paranoid in your thoughts. So it's like, and I don't want to be the store owner where people get killed, but I want to be the store owner where people can come get their groceries. Right. And so now, and then the people in the community, it's like, so I'm afraid to kind of go to any store, because we know it's not just about that store, because there's plenty of stores in Black communities. So it's like, well, should I go shopping in a white community now, because more than likely the white community won't get shot up, because white people don't get shot up, in stores as much as, or churches as much as black people do.
But
so
you might get shot if they act like you're stealing.
Well, so these are the things that people are probably thinking about right now. I know I think about it. For me, this pandemic, now I was doing this before the pandemic, but so this disease, it has made me much more aware, and I've just resolved within myself that I'm really not doing this anymore. I had my groceries delivered before this disease of the past 2 years. But now, since this, because, people are just kind of running wild as far as I'm concerned, and not just with the gun stuff, just with masking and not masking and this issue. So it's like, you know what? I'm never going to the supermarket again. And one of the reasons, not just because of the disease, the bigger reason, which is why I was doing it before a lot, is because of this gun violence. And and as a black person, there is some residue of fear there of the potential of something happening at a place with a large gathering, because the larger the gathering, the more people I can kill. Because you see, they don't go to this an area where there's like 1 or 2 people. They go where mass amounts of people gather so they can have a mass kill. So where's that? Supermarkets, concerts, right? Stadiums, ball games, graduations, things of that nature. I'm thinking about all these things now. And I don't go to a lot of things where there's a lot of people for that reason. So this is how the trauma has affected my movement. Right. And as well as in some other ways emotionally, like some of the stuff where I was asking you ladies or asking questions is because I didn't follow up with the information, because after the George Floyd thing, it set me over the top emotionally. And I hear the headline, get a little bit to know some stuff, and that's all I need. Because emotionally, I can't take it anymore. Right, to be as involved, because I used to do the news on this platform. And so doing the news, you have to really be involved. You have to know it was too much.
Right.
And
you know what happened?
Headlines like you guys get the notifications from the platforms. That's what I do. I read those headlines, read a little bit, but I'm not watching video after video, and it's too much. I have to care for my own mental health in order for me to be sane for my clients who I treat, right? And also too with all the other hats that I wear. We have to protect our own mental health, and these tragedies. And you know what I call myself? Or a person of color or white, these tragedies affect us, affect our mental health. We don't really have a say in how it affects us. It does. All we can do is then manage it. You can't control it. You can just manage it.
And you know what I found myself doing today? I caught myself doing something today, Sharon, for the first time, really and honestly, for the first time at the level that my mind went. But I was driving somewhere and I saw a white gentleman in a pickup truck, baseball cap on, and my mind said, I wonder if he's a shooter. And I caught myself, and I'm like, oh my God, that's how white people, racist white people see when they see black people. They immediately go to there's this word, and the mindset just gets caught up so quickly. And when I thought of it, I was like, oh, for the love of God, did that just come up in my head? But I just saw him driving his pickup truck with a baseball cap on, dark truck and all. And when I looked at him, driving past me, my mind went right there. I wonder if he's one of them shooters, if he's a racist shooter. And it's sad that we are becoming inundated with those thought processes, because those are the ones that'll keep you locked in the house, because you're scared to go down the street because you see a person, you're thinking, oh my God, I wonder if they're going to, I wonder where they're going. I don't want to go where they're probably going, because they might be, I found myself that in my head, and I was like, oh my God. That just came right into my head as if it's supposed to be normal.
Right. You think differently in these times. I know when I was talking to someone yesterday, when a police officer is driving behind me, I get nervous. I start to get anxious.
All the time.
My thoughts start racing. My heart starts beating fast, and I'm just like, Sharon, you're not doing anything wrong. What's wrong with you?
And don't let the siren. Don't let the siren go off.
I know the potential of Black people being murdered just at a police stop. That's why I'm getting anxious, because the probability is there's a possibility that I might not be making home tonight.
And don't let the siren go off, because you know they're pulling you over, and you pull over and they go right past you, but the panic is there.
Right.
You're actually going for your glove compartment now before you stop, because you don't want to be reaching for your glove compartment when they're walking up to the car, because you want to already have it sitting on top and everything where the cop needs to be. And then they drive right past you, and it's like, but the panic is there.
Yep.
That makes it so sad to hear all of this.
This is life as a Black American. You
Yeah.
know, we live trauma every day, and I don't think a lot of Black people even realize it, because we're so used to it. It's like we wear it, like I've said before, like our skin. It's has just become a part of us, because this is what we live every day. We don't know life that's not like this. And just because, you know, we have mobile phones and we've been able to see these things at the ready now, it was happening before, and Black people were saying it was happening, but we weren't being believed because there was no video.
And
Now
we're
there's
guilty
video,
anyway,
that's why
because
we're being believed.
yeah.
Right. So this is not new. It's been happening since we were brought to this country. It has never stopped. They just outlawed lynching this 2022, 2021, the 2022 this year. That's ridiculous. They just outlawed lynching. What does that say about America?
Exactly.
I love America. I think it's the greatest country to live in, but we have issues.
Major.
So we need to stop denying our issues, because you can't change what you deny. It's okay to say that we're not perfect. It's okay to say that we have some struggles. We're great, but we have some struggles. It's okay to say that. But to be in denial, and it's right there in your face, that's a problem. And that means we'll never change, because we're in denial and we're refusing to believe the facts that are right in front of our face.
Right in front of our face.
And we can clearly see it with other countries, right? Like, so, you know, Nazis and Jewish, you know, America sees the issue there. While Russia's doing in Ukraine, they see the issue there. But when war crimes have been committed, when, you know, hatred crimes have been committed, not so much.
Right. You know, why are we handling it or not handling it this way? You know, like you talked about for the Holocaust in Germany, how they have handled that in modern times. Why don't we do that?
And it's amazing how in this country they are so, you know, they are so engrafted in making right what happened to Jewish people. Well, you ain't even dealing with the problem you caused, because that wasn't caused by Americans. Yet you're doing all of the, you know, the giving reparations, doing all you can to help Jewish people. But the problem you caused yourself, you want to sweep under the rug and act like Black people just got a problem and issues, and they need to get over it. They need to just cut it out. Yet you're still killing us right in the streets. And yet the problem isn't really happening today.
And because you know what, Rosie, if they look at themselves, then they would have to change. And they don't want to change. And you know why they don't want to change? Because of the privilege that they have. Right. But here's the thing. I don't begrudge you your privilege. Have your privilege. But how about let us all have privilege? How about that? You know, that's all we're saying. And the fear of, as we were talking about earlier, you know, the browning of America and fear with replacement theory and white people being replaced, and fearing that what happens to people of color will happen to them. Truth be told, and I'm generalizing here, but with the people I know and how I know society, with you know, having lived 58 years, we don't want to do that to you. We just want equality and equity. We don't want to kill you. We just want to live peacefully aside amongst our brethren, which is everybody. We just want to live peacefully. We don't want to die just because we're Black. We killed and murdered because we're Black. We just want to live peacefully beside one another. I'm not trying to enslave you. I'm not trying to kill you. We just want to live together peacefully.
Right.
That's a guilty mind. Right?
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. And going back to resiliency, right? You know, people of color, you know, have faith, right? Many of you love Jesus, right? Or have another faith that, like, you know, either Islam or you name it, that makes you have a value system around other human beings. So that's not going to happen, right? That's not to say that there aren't occasional moments when, yes, because crimes happen, between cultures and within families, and you name it, it's happened since the beginning of humanity, but not systematically, right? There is no evidence to highlight, to show any concern that Black communities want to oppress or kill white people in any way.
Listen, Mariana, if you wanted to do that, white people would be dead already.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like we haven't had the means
or opportunities.
Right?
Or opportunities.
Exactly. We have it, we've had it, and we have it now.
And you invited me, a white person, on the
That's
show,
not who we are as a people.
Right. Like you invited me to share my voice here, right?
Right. Exactly.
And, you had another white person, right? Okay, I'm an immigrant, but we had another white person on the show, right? Who was a friend.
Right. And the girl that I have, my girlfriend, she's white, and she's on the other show that'll be coming out hopefully sometime in June. But stay tuned for that.
All right.
Right? Because, it's not about color per se, but color is a part of the conversation because color is a part of America. We've made it an issue. Right? And so we have to talk about it so we can overcome it. But let's get to Letisa and Abby's comment. So Letisa says, I'm sorry, Rosie. Rosie, I don't remember what you said, but I'm sorry, Rosie. We're justified in that thought process. We have lived this killing of Black Americans over and over. There is a possibility that I will be racially profiled or a fight provoked. Let me go back over here. A fight provoked by some white person who will call the cops on you and have you arrested. The law doesn't work for us the same way as it does for white America. I've
said forever that when dealing with the law, when you're white, you're innocent until proven guilty. When you're Black, you're guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah.
I've felt that way forever, and I still do.
So actually, a little personal story. I was driving back with my boyfriend recently from Ohio, and we didn't realize that at one point we were speeding, and apparently it was actually quite a bit. And so we realized when we got pulled over. So the officer came and let us know what's going on. And then he told us that, there's a lot of speeding on the street, and, they want to make sure it's safe and whatnot. We got away with just a verbal warning.
Yeah, that would have never happened if you were Black, honey.
But just a warning to slow down. And he was very much be safe, slow down, care about your safety and everyone else's safety. And, right. And he came after the conversations with you ladies, and both of us walked away from that saying, here we go, privilege. If it was not, for our skin color, we would have not, walked away from that without a ticket, the least.
Now,
I'm sure there could be a lot more.
Now, let me say this, because that's a generalization, because I have a personal story that speaks to that not being true. I was in New Jersey because I do in-home counseling, driving to a client's home who I'm familiar with the area, and because I'm originally from PA, Jersey does stuff different on their roads with this. You don't make left-hand turns with a left-hand turn thing. You go through these loops. I forget what they're called. Whatever.
The circles. They call them circles.
Left-hand turn. What'd you say, Rosie?
They call them circles.
Yeah, circles, but there's a roundabouts.
Roundabouts and circles.
I was making a left-hand turn, but the signage, it was funny. So I was like, do I go? Do I not? So I just went. But there was a police officer, and I didn't know, right? Someone driving, he stops me, and then of course, I'm just like, oh my God, right? And so he stops me. And, ask for driver's license, you made a left-hand turn, whatever. I was like, yeah, I was unsure because I didn't read the signal right. And then he asked me where I was going. I told him I was going to a client's house. And he's like, would you know where the client lived? I said, well, I got my GPS on. It was the first time I was going to this client's house, and I'm unfamiliar with the neighborhood. And so he said, oh, okay, well, you go here. So he was actually telling me, even though I had the GPS on, how to get to this house that I said was on such and such a road. And he didn't give me a ticket, even though I violated the law. Right? I made an illegal left-hand turn. And
Mhm.
so he was very nice. And I was like, thank you so much. Thank you for, not giving me a ticket and helping me with my, directions, etc. He was very nice, white officer. I
And
didn't
you
get a
know what?
ticket, although I deserved a ticket
Yep.
for violating the law. So I have an example
Yeah.
of being stopped in the wrong and
Hmm.
not getting a ticket, which I was so grateful for. And he was so
Yeah.
pleasant.
And honestly, I've had that experience too. I've had more experiences to the negative side, but I've had experiences like where I was I turned on a corner and I was sitting somewhere where I shouldn't have been sitting, but I was lost.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a cop truck, he was in a pickup truck and he saw me, he pulled over and he said, is there a reason you're sitting here? And I got nervous, but I just kept my cool. I said, yeah, I don't know where I'm at. I'm trying to get to 42. My sister just moved out this area. I turned on this corner and now I'm lost. He said, okay. He said, don't get worried or nothing. You're okay. All you got to do is come around here. If you make this left and you take that straight to here and this, and then make a left at this light, same thing with you. And he said, you go straight, you'll see the exit for 42 right there. So I'm thankful because we do have the wonderful
Mm-hmm.
police officers that are protecting and serving, because he
Right.
served me and protected me
Mhm.
because I was lost.
Right. Right.
And like you said, he was white. So with all that's going on, all we're saying is y'all got to do something about these ones that are just doing what they're doing.
And
Because
honestly, like, sorry, go
no,
ahead.
because it puts you all on the spot. And you have to, really prove that you all are out here. You great, wonderful officers that aren't looking at me because of my ethnicity, but you're looking at me because you're wondering, is what's going on with this person? Are they lost? I didn't feel, once he started talking to me, I didn't feel like he was profiling me. He sure didn't act like he was going to search my car. And he helped me to get to where I was going. And I felt safe.
And
That's
and, and,
great.
and in my instance, he picked up on my nervousness,
Hmm.
right? Because I was like, I'm just a little nervous. He goes, I understand. He knew. He didn't say it, and I didn't say it, but he said, I understand. He goes, this isn't that.
Mhm.
This isn't, you know what I'm saying? He knew. And so the bad apples, and we say it's a few, it's not just a few, it's a lot,
It's a
right?
lot.
Yeah.
Paint this officer, you know what I mean, who at least with the interaction with me, so I would presume that he's that way with other people of color, is an
Mhm.
upstanding officer. Why can't it be that way all the time? Even
And
if
his can.
even if I got a ticket, it was justified.
Awesome.
But the way he treated me was
Yeah.
upstanding.
And his
And
compassion on your plight, because he probably saw himself in your eyes. When he saw the fear, he probably said, oh my God, she probably thinks I'm getting ready to, and let me de-escalate this before it goes anywhere in her head.
Right.
And the comfort that you get when you have that interaction with them,
Yes.
and you feel, oh
Such
my,
relief.
and you don't know how to say anything, but you know what, thank you so much,
Right.
because
And
you
then
Mm.
praise
helped
the
me
Lord
through.
after you drive away. Thank you,
Woo!
Jesus.
Be almost speaking in tongue heading to the house. Oh, thank you, Jesus, Jesus.
Right. Mariana,
and
what were you going to
that's
say?
the method. I have several things to say, and I see the ladies. I guess we all have a lot of things to say, and I
Okay, so
do.
when you
I
after you
I
finish,
want to
Mariana,
highlight their
then we'll read all the ladies' comments.
yeah. I mean, I have a few things, right? I think this highlights, of course, like most people. Are there some who are very angry and loud, and maybe even violent in their approaches, both liberal white activists and black activists? Sure, right? Just like there's the extremes and plenty more on like the
Mm-hmm.
far right side,
Mm-hmm.
and yet at the same time, like a systemic issue doesn't mean every single person within that issue
Right.
is guilty, right? But
Right.
that's the water they're breathing, right? So, and if we were to compare this to like violence against women, we're also not saying that all men are violent, but a large
Absolutely.
percentage of women experience domestic violence. A very large percent experience sexual violence, right? Where when people talk about church trauma, right, we're not saying every single person who goes to church
Mm-hmm.
is, an oppressor in some way. Absolutely not. There's a lot of very kind church people.
Right.
And yet that doesn't mean that people cannot experience trauma within
Correct.
the walls of the church, right?
Absolutely.
So when we highlight all of that, is just to say, like, the beliefs are so wide in terms of, like, misogyny. We look down on women, so we excuse why violence against them is okay because they don't have the same value. The same thing happens with people of color. We devalue them and take away, your humanity, right? So then we think it's okay to treat them a certain way. And honestly, hearing these stories, and I think they're great, but that's how police is supposed to act.
That's
so
yeah.
And to see
Right.
to see both of you praise two white police
Yes.
officers for
For
doing
doing what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
being
We're
paid
so
to do that.
thankful.
But the relief, thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
And that's
Woo!
how healing, like, racial reconciliation can be. And I'm not saying that for everyone, and everyone has to arrive at their own pace. But when it can happen in at least certain circumstances, and it can be beautiful to have relationships with people who are different from us on the outside. Meanwhile, right, we have so many shared values.
Yeah.
With you ladies, there's so many things that we have in common.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Just because there's, we were born in different countries and we have different skin color and there's a bit of an age gap, but there's so much more in common.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I wanted to say all of that.
Thank you, Mariana.
Okay.
And
Thank
we
you,
appreciate
darling.
and I'm sure I can speak for Rosie, but we appreciate your voice, and I'm not saying that you represent the white community, because I don't represent all the Black community, and Rosie doesn't represent all the Latino and Black community, but having your voice here helps because of the level of the understanding that you bring to the table with your experience, from being from Moldova and your experience from living in America. So now, you bring both perspectives and your education and the things that you've seen, and raised in the Southern Baptist tradition, right? And all the things that you've seen, it's like,
right.
You made some judgment for yourself, like, this doesn't sound right, or this and so you put it all together, informed, like we talk about CRT, making an informed decision. You've made informed decisions about how you want to live your life, and what, as a Christian woman, how do I walk that out, as a representative of Christ. And those who are doing it this other way, it's like, are we really representing Christ? Because that is really the bottom line as believers.
Yes, right.
And so when we're doing that, then we're all on the same page. It's not even about color.
It's impossible to truly read Jesus and to want to take him seriously and not want to do this. I don't know how to say it otherwise. It's impossible. You have to have cognitive dissonance and other things going on to to have blinders on. But yeah.
All right. So Rosie, how about reading Abby's comment I just put up there?
Okay. All righty. It says privilege makes them feel superior. She was talking about what we were talking about earlier about white people and having the privilege of being officers and stuff. So she said, I've learned that they don't mind you doing well, just not better than them. And she's talking about, how white people, they don't mind you Black people doing okay, but as long as I'm doing better than you. So they fear us being treated like them.
So that not mind doing well is just enough so we can still profit from you.
Absolutely.
Right? Because if you're too depressed, then you can't bring us too much profit.
Right. Exactly.
So just enough, right, to bring us a profit, but not,
unless we incarcerate you at mass rates, then we get free labor. But don't let me go there, because that's a whole other show. All right. So, Mariana, how about reading Letitia's comment?
I am not managing my mental health as it relates to racism. I found myself just accepting this is the way it is and always will be. Wow.
Yeah. And that's, one of the things I mentioned earlier. I don't think Black people even realize that we're living trauma. Because it's such a part of our DNA, if you will, because we've never lived without it. but we don't know a life without it. So it's like, well, wait a minute. Is this trauma? It is. And as a mental health professional, I'm here to tell you, and you know, maybe one of the future shows, because we can't do it this show, we can go into the diagnostic criteria more of what the symptoms of trauma are. And actually, we have a guest coming on twice in the month of November who specializes in racial trauma. So we'll talk about it then. So make sure I'll tell you those episodes, and we'll watch us every week anyway.
Yeah,
but,
and
and
Dr. Walters
the diagnostic criteria, so you know,
Right.
something just off the bat, you know, sleep disturbance, right, and then the sadness and depression, and your thoughts, you know, and fearful, avoiding certain places. Like I don't go to supermarkets, right? I know what my symptoms are, right, and they are real.
Right.
You know, and so I manage them.
And that's how we deal with it.
The news like I used to, and don't do the news and all this kind of stuff, because when I was in it too much, it overwhelmed me after George Floyd. George Floyd was like my tipping point. And I was like, I've got to do something better, because I can't take it anymore. It had just become too much emotionally for me. And I found myself crying at the news all the time, not being able to focus and concentrate. And I'm in school writing papers, about to write my dissertation. I can't have that. Right. Fortunately, my professors were understanding, but it was taking a toll on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had to step back and I can't live like this. This is too overwhelming.
Yes.
Right. So let's put up the next comment. Abby says jug handle. Yes, there's so many terms for it. Roundabout, jug handle, and something that you said, right?
Circle. You got the circle,
right? Okay. And so Abby has another comment. Let's see what this one says. I've had several positive experiences as well with police officers. She's talking about. Good. And it's good that, I mean, you know, like Mariana says, it's so sad that we have to say we've had good experiences and we're so happy
because that should
police officers,
because that should be the norm. But when you live in a time where it's the norm is that you're guilty and that you're going to be given a ticket even for not doing anything, they're going to find something, because I got pulled over. I did nothing wrong, but I got a ticket because incense was hanging on my mirror. And I'm like, you had to find something,
right?
You know, your license plate. I can't read all of the word New Jersey. I'm gonna give you a ticket. What?
What?
Well, actually, I laughed at the officer because I thought he was joking. He said, "Well, I'm gonna have to give you a ticket because the thing around your license plate is covering up part of the word New Jersey." And I said, "Stop playing, you." Go on out of here. And he was like, no, I'm serious. I'm like, you're serious? He said, yeah. I said, when did that become a law? When did that come into effect? Oh, here's been the law for years. And I said, but you're seriously, like, I didn't do anything wrong. So you're going to give me a ticket for the frame around my license plate. You can see my license plate clearly. But because you can't read the whole word New Jersey, you only read half of the top half saying New Jersey, and you see it's New Jersey, but what? Gave me a ticket.
Well, a day in the life.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So one final comment is just about resiliency. You know, even though we've been through, people of color, specifically African Americans, a lot of trauma, racism, discrimination, prejudice, all of those things as a marginalized group in America, we are a resilient people. Because if we weren't, we would have given up by now, but we still fight the good fight because we believe in justice, right? And we believe that justice will prevail as long as we don't give up. Right. And we continue to invite people in, you know, as opposed to excluding them, because it's about all of us. Like Dr. King says, it's not just about Black, it's about Black and white, us coming together, right? So we're better together than we are apart. We're just not acting like it because of our fears and because of all these other things that interfere with, right? But our resiliency, our tenacity speaks for us. Because again, you know, mass white killings could happen at the hands of Black people if we wanted to. We have access to guns now,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
that's not what we want to do. We're resilient. We want justice. We want to keep fighting for the rights of all people
Right.
in this country, so we can make this country a better place, because we want to live here, because we love it here. But we're not in denial about our problems, about our American problems. So our resiliency is key, because we're faithful people.
Yes.
Our faith helps keep us going. And our drive for community, our love for community and family.
Yes.
So that's a big part of our resiliency, our faith, our community, and our family. And we love people, because we are communal people. So that's what I wanted to say about resiliency. And one positive there's plenty of positive things in the news.
Yes, of course.
This one, I really wanted to bring up. There was a young lady, Pinky, what's her name? I think Pinky Cole. She her business has a name. I want to make sure I get it right. Slutty Vegan. She's a vegan. She's the founder of Slutty Vegan, and she at the graduation of Clark Atlanta University gifted the entire graduating class. She was the keynote speaker. She gifted the entire graduating class a business LLC. So she started a business for each one of them.
Awesome.
I don't know the ins and outs of, like, did she speak to each
Awesome.
one? They were surprised. So she just probably put something in their name, got with the president of the university, and so when they can go in and probably, whatever business name and title they want to give it, they can do it. But she started it out for them, so they don't have to worry about that part, the
That
LLC
is so awesome.
part
So
that you have
wonderful.
to register with the state and the federal government. And so they got that leg up. So I thought that was a wonderful gesture on her part. She's African American. She's a Black woman who was a business owner. I think she owns multiple businesses. So that was a great gesture. And I wanted to highlight that, because we don't talk enough about the positive things in the news in general, but then especially in the Black community.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure I highlight that.
Yeah. So Letice wanted to thank us. She said, thank you for this platform, because we need a place to talk about the hard issues in a safe environment. Good job, ladies.
Thank you so much, Letisa.
I combined her two
Yes,
sentences.
I see what you did now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things we wanted to do here, because we know this conversation needs to be had.
Absolutely.
But and we know it's a hard conversation. It's a sensitive, it's a passionate, it's an emotional conversation. But to give this forum, and because we could go off in an office and do this, but then we're not including everybody.
Exactly.
So doing it on this platform is international, global. Anyone can join the conversation, but there's one thing: it must be done in love. Now, we're passionate, and you can see how I talk. I'm passionate about what I say, but I still love everyone regardless. So what I say may have passion behind it. It's not anger, it's passion. Well, some things I might be angry about, but it's more passion, because I love people, and I still believe that we can do it if we come together. It's the division that keeps us separated. Right?
Absolutely. And to go back to that, I don't want to name him, but whatever, Tucker's message about division. It's interesting, because this happened in the context for my dissertation of actually talking about the topic of and the benefits of dissertation. And there's so many benefits. And sure, in a diverse environment, there might be cultural differences that could lead to, like, maybe conflict or misunderstandings and such. But if you work through that, right, increased creativity, because you realize, oh, that's a good idea, and then there's something in you.
Right.
Increased ability to communicate effectively. We also learn from each other, new words, new ways of looking. And once you're able to communicate with a group who might be different from you, then you can use those skills in other groups that are different from you. There's so many benefits from diversity. And I think
diversity built this country.
Exactly. And all the countries that have immigrants are the most successful in terms of, like, financially and whatnot. And also, like, I kind of think that heaven would be a very diverse place. So if these people have an issue with diversity, they better take it to Jesus.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Maybe you really don't want to go to heaven because you're gonna be surprised.
Starting with Jesus, right?
Right.
And
And when you
starts-
look up some of the history with how CRT, critical race theory, when it's actually been talked about the way we're talking about having it discussed now, even though they're shunning it, but when it has been talked about in different communities and in different population, it has gone well. And people have gained insight and they say, wow, I really didn't know. And it's not a blaming thing. Right. You're having conversations and gaining insight about, oh, this is how this works. So this is what I didn't know that. So now I understand why that's what it's about. It's just gaining insight and understanding. So we know how this one particular issue has affected our lives. Just like we can think critically about how the economy affects our lives. So like critical economic theory, we wouldn't have a problem about that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have a problem about race?
Yeah.
Because if we look at ourselves, and specifically white supremacists, if they look at themselves critically, they would have to change. They don't want to change. That's the problem.
Yep.
So, well, ladies, we're way over our time, but it was okay because this was a great conversation tonight. Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Letisa, Danielle, and I don't know others who may have been watching, because if you didn't put your name up, I can't see you. Did you ladies see anybody on your feed?
I didn't notice anybody else. No.
Okay. Well, I see some other numbers, so I know others were watching, but they chose not to make a comment, which is fine, because the information is relevant whether you're commenting or not. We just appreciate you watching and hopefully learning some things, gaining some insight from our conversation. Share the feed with others so they can gain some insight as well, and just hear some of the stories so they, so you can know that, we all have a story. Everybody has a story, no matter where it lands, good, bad, or indifferent. We all have a story, and all of our stories make up America, right? It makes up this landscape that is so beautiful. It's a colorful landscape. Color is beautiful, right? We have to lean into the color and not run from it, because in the diversity of the color, there's productivity.
Yes.
Right? We produce in our differences, and that's the beauty of it all. So thank you for watching the show tonight. Mariana, Rosie, I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Love you, ladies.
Part of the show. Couldn't do it without you. You guys bring so much to the table, and I appreciate you so much. Join us next week when Dr. Tony Damon will be back on the show. She was on last week. Yeah, so she's doing part 2. She's an educator, went from entrepreneur to educator, and she broke the glass ceiling twice at 2 schools that she was the principal at Dobbins in Philly, and now Cherry Hill West. And she was the first Black female principal at both of those schools, breaking the glass ceiling. So she's coming back on next week to do part 2, and we can't wait to see her. She's in Disney now with her seniors.
Yes.
I hope they're safe and having fun.
Yes.
But thank you guys for joining us. We love you. We appreciate you so much. Do something to love on someone else. Do something to show people that because the color of your skin does not really matter, you love regardless of the color of their skin. Show love. Show love, not hate. God bless you. Have a God evening. Shalom.
Good night, everybody.